Still talking about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now I'm going to read out another passage and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Take thou, O Thoth. Now bear in mind Thoth was an Ingazida in Anunnaki. All of your wisdom, take all of your records, take all of your magic. Go thou forth as a teacher of men. Go thou forth, reserving the records until in time light grows among men. In other words, take your knowledge and your devices, etc., and don't let men see them until men are smart enough. Light being knowledge. And then it goes on. Light shall be thou be through all the ages, hidden yet found by the enlightened men, like we are right now, the people listening to this, all over earth. Give we ye power, fill thou to give or take it away. Gather thou now the sons of Atlantis, take them and flee to the people of the rock caves. So in other words, he's been warned off of Atlantis. Now if you watch my previous videos, you'll see that Atlantis really was just another Anunnaki city. So to be warned off, now why would he have done that? Well, I've already mentioned in previous videos that they were Ninurta was going around to bomb up some of these locations. So they warned him off, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm probably going to have to put some more of these videos on my Patreon, only because I put one up a minute ago and it just got taken straight back down, because I'm obviously talking about dead things in some of my videos to do with the Book of Thoth, because it is talking about reincarnation, etc. And so I'm guessing that's what happened. So I'm afraid the next few of these will be on my Patreon page. Sorry, and that's Our True History on Patreon. Sorry, I'm just doing it because I don't want my channel to be pulled. You may have seen this video of the guy flying over the top of the Great Pyramid. Now, they slow it down and freeze frame it almost. I'm going to try and do that now. And there. So basically there appears to be some writing on these blocks. Now that could be one of a couple of reasons, but the actual writing here on this particular one looks Roman. It has that Roman style font. Now we do know that Romans did actually indeed visit Egypt. Now I'm not saying the Romans were there when these were built, but people can climb up to the top of them. That's not impossible. Of course, nowadays it's not allowed. Now this one up here has got what appears to be some sort of hieroglyphics, which makes it really interesting. But it's also, if you look back here, there's blocks deliberately put in the center there. So that would have been where the light beam would have come out. You can see there's a hole there. The Great Pyramid had a light beam going up into space. This is from the Lost Book of Enki, which is translated from ancient text that Zachariah Sitchin had found in a library that you probably now won't be allowed to go and read them. They've probably even destroyed them, knowing what the secret military are like. Now, the capstone was classed as having electrum, which is naturally forming alloy from gold or silver, and silver. And Gibble. Now, Gibble, unfortunately, only translates into a person or a deity or a god. So I think we are misunderstanding what Gibble is. My take on it would be, because the god was fire. So if you put fire and sand, you end up with glass. So here we see a hole, which is at the top of the Great Pyramid. So inside the Great Pyramid had crystals, which used the ley lines to help produce a beam that would... Aliens were involved in the Great Pyramid, and with the light beam going straight up into space. I did mention this on video 1 onwards, so do scroll back or go to my website outtruehistory.co.uk and watch the videos onwards. But I'll just give you a hint. It was to do with a beacon, so that when the Anunnaki returned again, they would know where to go, because last time the flooded their landing pad, so they had to make a new one, and this was a beacon. Now we can kind of prove that where this is a really crude drawing of the pyramid. They got the tunnels here, etc., and there's the king's chamber here and the queen's chamber. Now the images always show these shafts going up off of the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. Now everyone says it goes off to Orion. However, there is no gap here on the edge, so it actually goes up at an angle. And now this is proved by the History Channel when they sent a little robot up there. It goes off up to the top for the beam of light. Here's something you might find interesting about the second largest pyramid, the Khafre's pyramid. Now, technically, it's not his because he wasn't even born when the pyramids were built, and neither was Khufu. But mainstream will push that down your throat. Now, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talk about Thoth, which was Ningazida as an Anunnaki, building the pyramid and putting a spaceship underneath it. However, everyone seems to think it was a Great Pyramid. He's referring to Khafre's pyramid. Now, he did build the first pyramid, and that was in the Lost Book of Enki. But let's talk about the second pyramid here. This is the one that no one talks about, really. Now, if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you will realise what actually Thoth stroke Ningazida is talking about. He wants to communicate with the dead, or spirits, shall we say, the light energy beings. I'm actually running out of time here, so I'm going to carry this on the next video. Do follow and watch. I hope this video is going to blow your mind. Seances were done at night because spirits or light energy beings struggled with the neutrinos or photons that come from the sun. That's why some seances are done with a red light, because the red light that produces a different frequency to a white light. Now, if you move that information over to Khafre's pyramid, which is the second largest pyramid in Giza, yes, they say that that was his burial chamber. No, it wasn't. It was actually a place where he would lay down and have less neutrinos coming through the pyramid to be able to talk in pitch black to spirits. And so that's what the Khafre's pyramid was for. Now, there is, if you look here, this is in Smithsonian. I know, do say be careful what the Smithsonian say, but looking for neutrinos, nature's ghost particles, because that's the same frequency as I just said. Now, there's a massive place deep, deep underground that they've built to actually stop neutrinos getting through. It's partly to do with heavy water. I'll carry on in the next video. We know this is a Great Pyramid, and this was built by Ningazida, which was also known as Thoth in Egyptian times. Regardless of what people say, that's my opinion. And this one is also built by the same person, but a bit later on. Now, this was actually written in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where he talks about building a pyramid. Now, unfortunately, everyone assumes it was that one, but it wasn't. It was this one that came later on. So let me read a passage to you from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, because if you watch my last video, you'll see that he used this to get to the halls of Amenti, which was basically the underworld, the spirit world, which is what I just said in the previous video. So ready? Raised I high over the entrance, a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amenti. Few there would be dare with the courage. Few past the portal to the dark Amenti. Raised over the passage, I, a mighty pyramid. So basically, where that pyramid is, he's built, he believed that there was a gateway underneath that to the spirit world. And then he wrote, using the power that overcomes Earth's force. So in other words, he's placed it in a certain place deliberately, such as a ley line. Deep and yet deeper I place I a force, house or chamber. From it I carved a circular passage reaching almost to the great summit. There in the apex set I the crystal. So in other words, he's put a crystal somewhere up the top here. Of course, no one shows you the top, but that's what he's saying here. So it would be interesting if someone actually scanned that properly. Sending the ray into the time-space, drawing the force out from the ether, concentrating upon the gateway to Amenti. So basically, as I said in the previous video, he laid in the chamber and used the crystal up the top here to be able to talk or feel like he's out-of-body experience to the underworld, to the spirit world. Some new information on this tiny little alien skeleton, and I say alien skeleton because if you look at it and you actually study it, this was found in Chile, in the desert in Chile. It has 10 pairs of ribs, 2 fewer than humans, and so on. There's a whole long list of things. Even the cranial plate there is different from humans, and the jawbone, and so on, so on, so on. So this little creature, in my opinion, is what people would call a Smurf, yes, it's the real name, or a leprechaun, or there's so many different names across different locations. Now, what's interestingly new is in Egypt, recently they found 2 mummified versions of that skeleton, both girls again, just like the other one, and they were found in Tutankhamun's tomb, and they say that it's Tutankhamun's daughters, but they've never seen anything like it. other than, wait for it, look at that, position, shape, exactly the same. Unfortunately, this person believes that this was debunked in 2013. They haven't obviously done their homework. Feel free to watch my videos and learn a little bit more, or go to outtruehistory.co.uk and learn even more. Now, this little alien I've done videos on, and it's only got 10 ribs instead of 12, and the cranial plate's different to humans, and jaw's different, and basic eye socket's different, the whole long list. So let's have a look what they say about it. So it says here, DNA not only shows that she was human, but she belonged to the local population. So human DNA. Now, a banana has human DNA. A fruit fly has human DNA. Basically, everything has human DNA. In fact, it's not human DNA. It's just us being big-headed. It's a generic DNA. Anyway, but let's go along. And she belonged to the local population of Chile. So that means chances are she's not going to cross the ocean to go somewhere else, is she? Little tiny little thing like that, bless. Well, actually, in Egypt, they found 2 mummified versions of the same skeleton, both again female, and they have come up with this concocted story that they believe it was Tutankhamun, who was a kid himself, that they're his children, and they were fetuses, and even though they don't look like anything like a human, etc., etc., and that's why they were mummified. So that you can see mainstream here clutching at straws. But let's have a look at why the original. So now these have got to be fake as well if they're not, if people think they're fake. But let's have a look at who actually debunked it. So this was a guy called Gary Nolan, and he worked for the Stanford University in California. Let's have a look at Gary. There he is. He's an upstanding fellow, so I'm sure he wouldn't. He would tell us the truth, wouldn't he? Because well, who's funding the place that he worked at? Let's have a look. So Stanford University. Oh, got some funding. Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool. From oh, what's that at the top? Rockefeller Foundation. Weren't they the ones that pay for money for the Cairo Museum, the Smithsonian, other institutions? And they basically, it appears when you look deep into it, they don't want us to know our true history. Because you'll find out that the Smithsonian actually destroyed giant skeletons, and that's why people say, oh, there's no such thing as giant skeletons. They actually destroyed them and had a court case over it. So when you put all of this together, it is not debunked, because clearly they're actually saying that it was a real skeleton just because it's got DNA in it that matches fruit flies. Ignore the word human there. So what do you think? You think, once again, outtruehistory.co.uk has boom dropped the mic? Thank you. No aliens in this video, but I thought I'd mention that archaeologists have recently found a 3,000-year-old lost city that's just been discovered. Now, I have to be careful when I say discovered, because people will say, well, the people that lived there knew about it, so how can it be discovered? But basically, it's talking about here that they believe it was around the time of Aten. So the problem is, if you keep reading all the information here, it's like they guess, they think, they this, they that. So in other words, there's no real time frame exactly for this city. So I'm not disputing that there isn't a city, but I am just saying that they kind of guess on the dates because of pottery, etc., etc. So they believe it's 3,000 years old. They may be right, they may be wrong, but I'm just pointing out that, you know, sometimes they don't actually know. If you watch my other videos, you'll know that I know that they don't know. I'd rather trust a professor who's funded in a university by the Rockefellers than some TikTok guy who thinks he knows it all. So I'm actually talking about here mummification from archaeologists. Now, they seem to believe now that they found the oldest known mummification, which is now 8,000 years ago. But the problem is, when you actually read on, they're actually just looking at photographs that were 60 years ago. So they're now ascertaining that the photographs of the images depict a mummification from 8,000 years ago, which is basically just a guess, let's be honest. And the reason why I say about the who do you trust is because if you watch my other videos, you'll see that recently archaeologists in Egypt have now said, oh yeah, mummies are probably 1,000 years before we actually thought they were. So when you keep getting misinformation, who do you trust? look closely, you'll see there's a cavity inside the Great Pyramid. Now, the researchers, wait for it, this is from the express.co.uk, are talking about experts are proposing a cosmic ray scan of the Great Pyramid to find out what else is going on in there. Now, they keep referring to the experts, but really when you look down it says the scan project. So when you look at the scan projects, that's basically designed by and led by the Cairo Museum or University. And so when you look at the Cairo Museum, you find out that Mr. John D. Rockefeller has already been there and been dealing with them in the past, which means he's probably still dealing with them in the future. So going back to where we was here, are we going to find out the truth about what's with the scan, or are they going to hide it from us? Because if you see who's funding or who's behind all of this, then you'll realise we won't ever know. Pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle. Supposedly in 2012 they found these glass or crystal type pyramids, possibly 2 of them, in the Bermuda Triangle. Why the hell haven't they gone back? This would be the biggest news story in the whole history of the world, because it means either they were built underwater or they were here so long ago that the land wasn't under ocean at that point. Why don't we find out? There's either 2 reasons for that. One is they've been warned off and said, do not tell anyone. Or 2, then they're fake. Your thoughts? Well, I hate liars. So this website here, The Spectator, says proof at last that the Great Pyramid wasn't built by aliens. Now, wait for it. Their proof is an old bit of papyrus, which basically says that it was a logbook, really, which I've mentioned in previous videos, that says that the Egyptians used denial and they moved blocks backwards and forwards. That's it. They do not talk about the pyramids. There's no mention of it. However, this website here is saying that they're talking about how they lifted the block, raising them up so that they could actually make ramps, etc., etc. The papyrus doesn't say any of that, so they've added all this crap. And then, wait for it, this is, you know, when someone's trying to debunk things, it's when they talk about things like little green men here. Look, little green men or Atlantean speculations is both a failure and an overuse. So basically they're trying to knock people, even though technically the Anunnaki built pretty much most of the pyramids. Now here we have Teotihuacan on the left, and that's 2 larger pyramids with one off-centre, a smaller one. We have Orion's belt there with 2 stars and a smaller one off-centre, and then we have over here the Giza pyramids, 2 and then 1 off-centre. Now in my previous video I did mention that the shafts for the Great Pyramid that look like they're going up towards Orion if you go back 12,000 years ago, but the actual shafts do turn. So I will cover the connection between Orion and the Anunnaki shortly. In fact, I have to do it on my Patreon page, which is Our True History. There's plenty of videos already on there. So Our True History. But going back to why the Anunnaki built them, have a look here. You'll see different locations, different times, different pyramids have all got the same features. So join me on my Patreon page for plenty more videos, longer ones. Okay, you all know that I'm interested in these things here, and I managed to find someone that has a cave that they've got these type of things in that only they know about in Luxor. It's all cleaned up now. Obviously I spent a fortune on it to get it shipped over. So you've probably seen the videos where there's these caves full of these type of things. Now it cost me a fortune, but there's something even more special. Okay, so my point is Egypt has a lot of these sort of things that they sell. So I'm just saying, we have seen videos where there's caves, etc., that or rooms that have loads of these type of artifacts in. I'm not saying they're not real, but I'm just saying someone's got to store the artifacts that they sell somewhere. So just bear that in mind. Zecharia Sitchin's been debunked. It's fake, and everything that he writes is fake. Well, that's according to the people that want it to be fake. And the only reason why they say it's fake is because they struggle to read Sumerian. However, they would also say, well, there's no such thing as the Lost Book of Enki. Now, Lost Book of Enki is technically made up of various different pages. It's not a whole library of one particular set of tablets. Now, this gentleman here Ivan Finkel is the head curator of the Museum of London, which is also known as the Rockefeller Museum, believe it or not. Now here, 2014, he basically says he does not believe the Ark existed, despite remains apparently being found at Mount Ararat in Turkey. Now he actually has these in his possession, the actual tablets that talk about the Ark. Now, if you listen to my video or read the Lost Book of Enki, my other videos, you'll see that what happened was Enki tells the wall that Noah had in his bedroom, because Enki weren't allowed to tell Noah directly about the oncoming flood, which was actually a tsunami. Now, this gentleman here studied these originally and actually totally agreed that they were genuine. And when you actually listen to his whole, here we are, Ivan Finkel, the Ark before Noah, listen to this. The guy talks about how much wood you need, and they've done retests of it and everything else. So he actually does believe. So I think that earlier story from 2014, maybe he may have had a bit of pressure on him from, I don't know, say the Rockefellers, for example. But have a listen to this. This is from the tablets.
Read it yourself. This is easily arranged. It's very easily arranged afterwards. Wall, read wall, atra hasis. Pay heed to my advice that you may live forever. Destroy your house, build a boat, spurn property, and save life. Well, not many letters begin that way, and in point of fact, I was able to read it at sight because I had a very demanding teacher who used to hit people and thrash them with barbed wire until they learnt their signs. And so, recognising the beginning of the flood story in the Babylonian epic was a doddle for someone who grabbed.
So basically, he carries on and literally admits that Enki, although he may not agree that Enki is an alien, he does actually at least admit that Enki is a genuine person. So again, another reason why Zecharia Sitchin is correct, because he was talking exactly about this. So well done, Zecharia Sitchin, and boo to those who think he's been. I thought we'd have a look at pyramids around the world, and yes, they are around the world. There's about 118 in Egypt alone, and sometimes they're hidden, so there probably is more in Egypt. Now, the reason why I say they're hidden is here is in Guatemala, and as you see, it's a step pyramid, but it's literally covered in trees, etc. Now, that does happen a lot around the world. Here's one in Indonesia, again, covered over the years with trees and grass, etc. Here's another one in Bosnia, again covered, although you can kind of make out that's a pyramid for sure. And there's even one in Mexico. Now, supposedly it's bigger than the Great Pyramid by at least 4 times the size. So what we're saying is there's probably so many more things that we don't know. What has Tom Scott got to do with the Anunnaki, I hear you ask? Well, he played a board game with the curator of the British Museum, Ivan Finkel. And the board game was a Sumerian board game, which was, let's be honest, an Anunnaki board game, which probably come from their home planet in the first place. Now, Irvin had, because he worked in the British Museum, and they have over 130,000 cuneiform stroke Babylonian tablets. That's just one museum alone, so you can see how many tablets there were in the world. He had come across the instructions for how to play the game. So the answer to your questions is, did the Anunnaki have fun? Yes, they did. Now, this also led on to Egyptian times with Egyptian board games that were actually out there for the Egyptians to play. So next time someone says, did the Anunnaki have fun? Yes, they did. Walk like an Egyptian in the Grand Canyon. There's caves in the Grand Canyon that were man-made, possibly 3,500 years or older, that go back some 500 feet, and inside off of those were rooms, and some of these rooms had shrines into some of the pharaohs from Egypt. And there's also artifacts that was found, as well as hieroglyphics. Now, they didn't actually live there. What they were doing was mining for ore, iron and brass, I think it was, which means they didn't actually live there. So it's a long way to go from Egypt just to mine some materials if they weren't actually staying there. Now the Hopi Indians actually live on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but because it's so inhospitable. So why did the Anunnaki, let's be honest, it was the Anunnaki, why did the Anunnaki come all the way to the Grand Canyon for materials? There is a Sphinx in the Grand Canyon in this tiny little sort of, I don't know, tomb or temple. But what's interesting is it's inside, it's carved in. Now, if you've looked at any sphinxes in the past, you'll see that they're normally prominently displayed. So these ones here are guarding an entranceway. Obviously we know about the Great Sphinx, but they're generally done for a good reason, not to be hidden away in a tiny little thing. Now, this is only the length of a ruler, so literally you could just, it's tiny. And other places already have similar ones, as you can see there. So I don't know. The skeptic in me says that the tourist trade that actually takes people directly to this Sphinx is doing very well out of it. That's all I'm saying. But if it was bigger and properly cut into the rock and everything, then yes, maybe. But I don't know. I struggle. Uniform writing, which is the Anunnakis. Now, see that one there? That's the 1, 2, and 3. And the way it works is you would add another one, for example, to make one word or one letter or one part of a pronunciation, and then you would add other things to it. So, for example, I'm just making this one up, but you would then probably put that inside there. So then you've got a whole word there and so on. Now, when you look at the Egyptians, you can see, again, very similar. Now, these were pressed in into clay, which is obviously not done by pen, so it's easier with a stick that already has that point there. So you just literally push it into the clay. But as Egyptian times went on, you realise that they could actually draw on walls with paint, so it was a lot easier to draw than it was a straight line. You can't do this kind of drawing in a clay, not very easy, so they did the straight lines. What is underneath the Sphinx? Well, there's stories that it could be the Akashic Records, it could be a library. Now, this dates back even older than we think. So even Edgar Cayce around the early 1900s was talking about something under the Sphinx's paw. But we have to look at who was there that would have possibly made the Sphinx for it to hide something underneath it. Now, the Anunnaki were there. So what would they have hidden? Well, it wouldn't have been the Akashic Records. It would have been the tablets of destiny. They had tablets that would decree who was the ruler at that particular point, who was the leader of a particular area, etc. So we know that it would be more likely these type of tablets, because the Anunnaki would have built the Sphinx at the same time. But whatever happens, the military has been aware of this, thanks to people like Edgar Cayce. There is no way that there would now be anything underneath the Sphinx, because American military would have done whatever they could to have taken it. There are people out there that say the pyramid was made using poured limestone concrete. I just have to address this because it doesn't make sense. So basically you need a mold, because it takes 2 weeks for it to harden if you was to do a limestone concrete. So you need a mold round it. Now, there's 2.3 million blocks here, and each block is a different size to the next one. So if you was going to make a mold for 2.3 million blocks, guess how many molds you would need, because each block's different size? Yes, you would need 2.3 million molds to fit the 2.3 million different size blocks. So can we please stop with the poured concrete? It just does not make sense.
Have you ever left the fridge door open and wasted food? You can now attach this small fridge door alarm to your fridge or freezer door. You can choose a setting for how long you want to wait before it beeps. It starts low, then gets louder the longer the door is open. It also works with these type of fridge freezers by placing it on top of the door. To find out more, visit fridgedoораlarm.com or buy it on eBay.
I have now uploaded a video explaining how I think the Great Pyramid blocks were cut, and it's not using the copper tools that they apparently say that that's what was used. So if you want to find out what my thoughts are, and if you remember, I'm the guy that done the Atlantean video, explained who was in Atlantis, and I'm also the person that concluded that the Book of Enoch is actually talking about the Stonehenge or henges. Now, I've had hundreds and probably thousands of people not complain, but say I'm wrong with the globe theory, but not one person has said I'm wrong on the Atlantean or the Book of Enoch stroke Stonehenge. So am I also going to be right on how they cut these blocks? Do join my Patreon site, Our True History, on Patreon, and there's plenty more videos already there, so you can watch loads already. Thanks. Oh no, the Anunnaki are going to return in 2022 and have a cup of tea with us. Well, let's have a look at why we think it's coming back in 2022. And I don't think it's coming back in 2022 because I've been researching this stuff for 40 odd years, and the amount of times I've heard the Anunnaki are coming back in a few years' time, each time, and they never come back. Now, they are actually dealing with the military, so they're already here doing trades, etc., with the secret military. But there's a book that says the Anunnaki, what will happen when they come back in 2022. Now, the Anunnaki, let's be honest, they're not going to say, right, okay, I'll tell you what, guys, we'll pencil you in and we're going to take over the planet in 2022. They're not going to do that. They're not going to announce why they're coming if it's for hostile reasons. So even if they do come, which they're not going to, it's never going to be for a hostile reason. So, please stop asking me those questions when they're coming back. Is that an obelisk in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me? No, obelisks in Egypt weren't just done for decorative reasons. They were actually a reason that they'd done them. My opinion is that the tips did generate power, as I've mentioned before in previous videos. Now, the Great Pyramid had crystals in it, as written in ancient tablets, to help power the light beam. Watch my previous videos if you don't know what I'm on about. So this obelisk here would have had, as well as all the others, accolade feldspar, which is crystals. Now, again, the Great Pyramid, which was the first one they tested on, used the crystals to help power the light beam that came out from the top of it. Now, obelisks also have rose quartz in them, which is also recognized by the ancients for its restorative powers by Aphrodite and Adonis. Now, Aphrodite, we know, is Iana from the Anunnaki. So it all makes sense. A coffin for an Anunnaki, or a monster, or a hybrid. Well, this is a place called Saperium, and it's in Saqqara in Egypt. Now, down in the depths, there's many of these huge, what we were calling, I guess, sarcophagus, and they're so big that they are actually 75 tons for the bottom part, and the lid is 30 tons. So you're not going to move that in such a confined space easily without some sort of skills. And it's 3 meters in length. Now, 3 meters, for those of you, is nearly 10 foot. So why would they put giant sarcophaguses 10 foot when back then people weren't 10 foot? Well, I'll just throw the old Minotaur out there, because inside they did find bull parts. Now, if they're going to hide stuff from us, they would just say it was a bull and leave it at that. They wouldn't carry on and mention that there was other. This is not a normal skull, and don't say it's headboarding, because it's missing sutures that humans have. So this was found in the Valley of the Kings in a tomb called KV55. Now, this tomb is special because, unlike other tombs, not pyramids, it didn't have any hieroglyphics or anything on the walls, which means they finished it in a hurry, or they didn't like the person that was inside. Now, what's also interesting is there is these, what they call magic bricks, which has got writing on. Normally they're facing outwards, but these ones in this tomb were facing inwards, which means it protects what they call the barn. Now, that is a spirit or light energy being from escaping. So normally these are facing the other way, so that will help the spirit of whoever the person with the elongated skull was leave the tomb. But this is keeping the person in. Some people say it's not Akhenaten, but I don't think so. What do you think? Bringing an Egyptian mummy back to life. Well, we're not quite there yet. However, this Mexican doctor, some 5-6 years ago, managed to dehydrate the skin of a mummy. And he was working mainly in forensics to be able to get fingerprints back from the people that had died and that had dehydrated And this has been done just for the hand, but now he's come up with a new chemical solution that will allow the skin on a whole body to be dehydrated or hydrated back. So you can actually now see birthmarks, colour skin, even tattoos on the ancient Egyptians, which is pretty interesting. Now, the way he done it, he worked with pig skin and human fingers to keep doing the tests. Now, pig skin, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll see that pigs are related to humans. Watch my previous ancient aliens in ancient Egypt. Now, all you have to do really is just open your eyes and concentrate. So there's a place called Heliopolis in Egypt, which had a smaller place in it called Anu. And funny enough, King Anu was also called Anu. There you go, from Sumerian times. So there's a connection there. It's just so simple when you just think about things. Now, there was a first obelisk was created in Anu, and it was capped with a Benben stone, and that stone came from the sky god Ra. Now, he brought it on his barge. Now, this isn't a sky boat, as you can imagine, but this is what the depictions of Ra's skyboat looks like. Now, it's also called solar barges. Now, Ra was said to have used a vessel called Manjet, a particular type of craft, during the day, and that was also known as the boat of millions of years. So come on, it doesn't take an Einstein to work out millions of years, Anunnaki, long time. The Garden of Eden, as it was properly pronounced, not Eden, was actually where the Anunnaki stored a lot of their technical equipment. So it was a place of knowledge that they didn't want, for example, Adamu to learn the secrets. Now, they also did that with all sorts of things, like, for example, the boat of Ra, as mentioned in the last video, which was actually a skycraft. Yes, they had their own barges, but this was a skycraft that Ra would fly. And the only place you can actually see any technology, because it's something that they absolutely forbid humans to learn about, was on the wall of or above the door in Abydos, in this carvings of a couple of their craft, and that's the only place you can find it. Just changing the subject slightly, those of you that may have seen In Search of Aliens TV program or my videos talking about the Malta skull, the elongated skull, there is an actual update now to that on my Patreon page, Our True History, and fascinating new update. No one else has. Look at this elephant, scarab beetle. Yes, I am being facetious, because the amount of people that try and pick me up when I accidentally say word wrong is freaking annoying. Anyway, it's a scarab beetle, and it is made of a special type of glass that's created due to an atomic bomb of some description found in the Great Sand Sea in Egypt. And the artifacts, there is no artifacts of a meteorite there, so the only conclusion is that it's one of the locations that the Anunnaki used in terms of them using their 7 weapons of terror. So hopefully I have not said anything else out of place that people are now going to start picking holes in. It gets a bit laborious. I believe I have worked out why the crystal skulls were made, and if I am right, once again, Our True History has knocked it out of the park. Just like I did with the Enoch and Stonehenge and the Atlantis and Anunnaki. So if I'm right about the crystal skulls, someone's got to give me a medal. So the video that we'll be talking about that will be video 740. So do subscribe, follow, send me gold coins, the black pearl, the heart of the ocean, anything like that you want to send me. Don't trust an Egyptian. So basically what's happened is, over the years, different pharaohs have actually removed information that was carved in stone by their predecessor, sometimes by their father, who had wrote things in stone or carved statues. So archaeologists have now found that there is carvings underneath carvings where they've been patched up by the person that's followed on, and now this is coming to light because they're using certain techniques, etc., to work out where things have been written over. So, for example, this one here is to do with Ramses II writing over SETI information that he had given. This is called a Benben stone, or a pyramidium, which is supposed to be on top of a pyramid. Now, I say supposed to be because here you'll see on Wikipedia, I know people complain about Wikipedia, but basically leading researchers have concluded the pyramidion was never used. So I've looked and looked to try and find a Benben stone or a pyramidion on an actual top of a pyramid, and I can't find it. Now, normally they're found on the ground like this, which leads me to believe that a pyramidion was never designed to be on top of a pyramid. Now, a quick word from our new sponsor today, which is Aria Guitars. I have bought recently a Bowery, it's called a Bowery 212, it's actually a 212 Mark II Bowery. For the price, it is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I also have a DM 206, which I love, but my favourite by far is still the STG003, which when you compare it to guitars 5-6 times the price, this outbeats them by far. After 700 and something odd videos, hopefully you're starting to trust my information now. Would you like me to tell you my thoughts on, for example, Alien Soul 28, who was possibly an alien or channeling an alien or is an Anunnaki or whatever she is? Do you want me to explain my thoughts on her? And Corey Good, who was supposedly working for the Air Force, Space Force. So I go through and talk about him, and Randy Kramis, same thing, and Bashar, who supposedly channels a future alien, as according to his website. Emery Smith, who's worked on various different aliens on their anatomies, etc. So you can find all of my thoughts, whether or not I think they're genuine or whether or not they are, just trying it on, from my Patreon page. If you go to Our True History on Patreon, scroll down, there's many new videos you haven't seen. I don't talk about elsewhere. So unfortunately, this follower of mine, who's probably watched at least some of the 700 free videos, has mentioned that they don't like the idea that I'm charging a fee on Patreon to watch different videos that's not already available on TikTok, even though I'm continually putting more videos on TikTok free of charge. Now, yes, I also have a website which costs money. So, this is all free of charge for people. They can come along nice and easy. They can go straight to my videos. I sit there and make them in sets of 5. I make them in sets of 50, free of charge. It takes time. I also put them on YouTube in the sets, like I've said. I've also got podcasts that I set up and sit and put them all the platforms, etc. And they're all free on my website. So yes, I know you're going to moan that some of the videos on the Patreon site, well, all the videos on the Patreon site are longer. Oh, but I want them longer. Sorry, they're on the Patreon site because TikTok, the best thing for me to do it on TikTok is 1-minute videos. I'm sorry if that's a problem. It just works better for me. But longer videos that I talk about things are here on Patreon. And so I don't know where you get that sort of price from. My tiers are just $1.99, $2.99 or $4.99. You don't have to watch these videos. I'm still putting them on TikTok. I don't know what else to do. I've done the website free of charge for people. I put them on YouTube. I do the podcast for people free of charge. And I'm continuously making videos and 4-hour long live chats twice a week I do, which is quite time consuming. 4 hours twice a week at least. Sometimes I did virtually a whole week continuously. At what point do I say, okay, enough's enough, or do I continue and try and get some money in for the efforts that I'm putting in, or do you not think my efforts are worth it? Would you rather not unfollow me and just go elsewhere and get out your information from someone that is not Our True History? I'm kind of sad. I don't know what else to do. Would you like the shirt off my back? Your thoughts on this bird? It's a Saqqara bird. It's found in Egypt, and it looks like a bird, but it's only got one eye. The other eye isn't painted on the other side. And the experts seem to believe that it is actually a plane. Now, if you look here, there should have been something there, or someone's carved something there. So they did some wind tests, and without anything on the back, this is unstable. The actual craft is unstable. However, when they added an extra part to the back, like a normal aeroplane would have, then in the wind tunnel, it actually performed perfectly. So is it really an aeroplane that made out of wood in Egypt, or is it just a toy that was designed as a bird? Your thoughts are welcome. Oh my God, that's disgusting. What is it? What is it? Well, it's actually just a giant ball. Huge buried ball. And this is in Bosnia. Now, the experts say that, ready? Are you ready for this? Very high content of iron that leads experts to believe this is a naturally occurring spherical rock called concretion. So because it's got iron in it, see that? Read that properly. Very high content of iron that leads, in other words, because of the iron content, therefore you get a round ball. However, all these experts are great, aren't they? Look at these. These haven't got iron in them. These are just stone, and these are in Costa Rica. In fact, very recently they found another one, huge, 3 meters, buried. So experts, yeah, not so much. The Curse of Tutankhamun's Tomb. Now, the story goes that if you opened it and went inside, you would have a curse put on you, and at some point or another, you will end up having bad luck. And my kind of take on it is that, you know, people have good luck, people have bad luck. So the first person was Carnarvon, who died of a mosquito bite, and that became poisoned. And in fact, his half-brother also died from blood poisoning as well. Is that a curse? Maybe not. Other people did have illnesses. But there was a person that Carter, who was the main archaeologist, gave some objects to, and his name was Sir Bruce Ingram, and his house burnt down. After he got it rebuilt, it flooded. So is that just unfortunate, or is that a curse? I'm guessing I would say just unfortunate. Look into my genuine crystal skull eyes. Genuine? I thought these were debunked. Well, it's not really debunked. What it was a guy worked for a university, looked at the skull under a microscope and saw tiny little scratches and said these were tool marks. Now, this is thousands of years old, so if you've got a few dings on it, that's fine, no problem. But of course, once he said it was scratches, he then said it was tool marks, in which case, therefore, it's not thousands of years old, even though technically someone would have had to use tools on it to make it. But hey, he now decides that those scratches are modern tools, which then makes the guy sound like a complete nut. What turns out where he actually works was, if you watch my previous videos, was for a university that was funded by the Rockefellers. And if this was fake, if you don't know anything about the Rockefellers, go and watch my videos. You'll understand why he's debunked. So this is genuine. But if it wasn't genuine, why the hell is it in the British Museum if they thought it was fake? So let's go on to why my opinion of what it was actually created for. Now, there's more of these. And yes, they were in the film Indiana Jones. I had people saying, no, they're not real. They're from a film called Indiana Jones. No, the Indiana Jones copied these. Right, anyway, so that's that. So my take on what they were actually created for, and I'm the only person that's thought this, so if I'm right, once again, our true history, once again, I have to say that, has knocked it out of the park. So there's a spell that was a genuine spell called necromancy, and it was many, many centuries old. And generally what they did was they had a skull, a human bone skull, and they would put oils and certain particular oils all around it. And then there would be smoke going all around the skull. And this would be done at night. Watch my other videos to find out why everything's done at night. Now, a spirit from the underworld would come up and make sounds through this skull. Now, my take on it is, if you know anything about glass is, there we are, you know that the glass has a better resonance frequency than bone, which is why glass is upside down used on Ouija boards. So if you go back to the crystal skull and you find out that not only has it got crystal in it, it's also got quartz, which is even better frequency, then in my opinion, these were actually used, especially when you work out the locations of them, these were used to summon the dead and talk through them, which would explain why sometimes people see things inside the eyes or inside the actual thing, and sometimes even projecting out from them. So that's my take on it. It's a genuine thing, necromancy. So there we go, our true history. The Law of One is a series of books that was written back in the 80s by 3 guys who supposedly channeled an alien race called Ra. And they asked Ra many questions and got many answers, and they wrote the books. And in the books, it talks about Ra coming down about 7,000 years ago and manifested himself into a human form in Egypt and tried to help create, raise our consciousness. He also built the pyramids. Now, unfortunately, in my opinion, these three guys have just done a lot of research, and the bits that they don't understand, they made up. So I don't think they channeled anyone. Why did they stop? If there was, you know, why not sell that information on how to channel an alien to someone else? They could have made billions. But anyway, so we know who made the pyramids. It wasn't Ra. It was one of the Anunnakis called Ningazida. It's written in stone tablets. So again, I'm afraid this is fake. Is that a bird? Is it a plane? Or is it a handbag? Well, the Anunnaki had a handbag, possibly. And people, as you can see by the circles on YouTube images here, they weren't sure what they were, whether it was a battery, whether it was a handbag, whether it was a bucket, some people have said. So there's been so much speculation, even videos, whole videos made on what is it, because they don't actually know. Well, you'll be pleased to know, Our True History, that's me, asked a very good friend of mine who went to Egypt to take hundreds of thousands of photographs of absolutely everything when they went. And they did. And I was going through those images. And so just study this for 1 second here. This is the Anunnakis. Look at the way it's done. So that was probably the clearest picture. Now look at these Egyptian bags. Look. So you can see the absolute similarity between this and that, with the way the two loops go. Look at this Egyptian female form with a lion head. This is outside the Egyptian Museum. Now, I mention Egyptians because there's a thing in Samaria called Lameshtu, and it's described as a female body with a lion's head. Ignore these pictures here, they obviously don't know what they're doing. Now, Lameshtu, again, proving that they don't know what they're doing. Look at this, Wikipedia's actually showing the Nerta attacking Anzu, and because Anzu's described, yeah, they thought this was Lameshtu. This is why it frustrates me. But here again, it's Wikipedia's saying that it's the female demon or monster. Of course, we know there's no such thing as a demon or a monster. It's just something we don't know what it is, because you can't describe a demon to me, because my demon will be different to you. It's the same as a monster. Until we name it, then it becomes... But it's interesting that Egypt has something similar to... Lameshtu was a spirit of some sort that the Sumerians used to believe would go and take their newborn babies, which could be metaphoric, in other words, a stillborn, in which case they have put that down to a creature called Lameshtu, who does look like the Egyptian picture here with a woman's body and a lion's head. Now, Panzuzu is the only one that could stop this Lameshtu from going around stealing the life of babies, newborn babies. So it's possible Panzuzu was actually her husband in a previous life. That's the theory that's going around. So when she sees him, because they've obviously split, they, for whatever reason, divorced or whatever, she runs away and the baby is saved. Look at this carving in the Egyptian Museum. At first glance, it looks like a little alien. However, you'll realise the body parts there do seem to have dwarfism, which they also had gigantism, and that's understandable because the Anunnaki were 8 to 12 foot tall, breeding with humans, which were about 5 foot tall, and we ended up with a mismatch of sizes, which is why we got the Nephilim. But the skull there could be mistaken for the Star Child skull, if anyone knows what that is. Now, I have actually done a big, long video on my Patreon page about the Star Child. Now, I know the original owners of it, after Lloyd Pye had passed, basically ended up saying, "Oh, that's it, forget it, it's all fine, it's not really an alien skull." But if you watch my video, it's a longer video than I do on TikToks. On my Patreon channel, you'll find out my thoughts on the Star Child. I'm going to start doing cat videos because they get so many more views than my videos. Here is a cat. Meow. Actually, it's an Egyptian type of cat, and the reason why I'm talking about it is because I'm dealing with Egyptian times at the moment in my videos. Now, these cats, although not really connected to the Anunnaki in any way, are hugely important in Egyptian times. In fact, if you actually even hurt one of these cats, you would be put to death. That's how, and I wish we had those laws these days, but they even mummified their poor little cats. That's how important cats were. There was even a cat goddess stroke person called Bastet, and her sister, she was actually the daughter of Ra, and her sister was Kemet, which if you look here, you'll see she's depicted as a lion, which if you watch my previous videos, you will see there she is. Wait, this is the Princess Bride story with giants and monsters, etc. So look at this character here. Now, if you do that in proportion to the same size as the Anunnaki, that would be about right, 8 to 12 foot tall compared to the people of the time. So that would explain that the Anunnaki were in Egypt, which is what we've been saying all along. But dinosaurs, now look at this creature here, long-necked creature being roped by, look, captured by two people. Now, we know these are not giraffes. These are not like any creatures we've ever seen. So what are they? They've got an ox down here. So that's fine. They did have oxes in Egypt. But what are these? Now, they don't knock these up for fun. They really don't. And they don't make someone tall for the fun of it. Everything's in proportion. So what were these dinosaurs, maybe? In my previous video, I was saying that the ancient gods in Egypt were taller than humans, and people were saying, no, they're probably just little kids, or it's metaphoric that they're talking about them being 8 to 12 foot tall. Well, I thought I'd just point out some other depictions here of them being taller. But that stems from the Anunnaki, because obviously the Anunnaki, if you've watched my videos, you'll know that they're 8 to 12 foot tall. Now, look, there's people here with beards. You don't get kids with beards, not as far as I'm aware, which means that this isn't children. So in which case, this is either now metaphoric or they are generally that tall. So when you're looking at them holding a goat, I can't hold a goat like that unless I was 8 to 12 foot tall. And again, another carving. So this could either be metaphoric or they were real that size. Look at the size of his head there compared to a horse when you actually compare it to a real person's head and the horse. So you can see that they're carving them with giant size. Look, that's a full-size lion with a mane. And again, Iana there, or Ishtar, or as people might want to know her, Aphrodite with a lion. So she would actually walk around with lions as pets. And again, here, this is Greece now, showing, again, full size compared to smaller people. If you look there, the difference between them. Now, when it gets to Greece times, they are a tad smaller compared to they're not the 12 foot, but obviously that's probably because they either are offspring of the Anunnaki and humans, or, in other words, demigods, or they are old in age, which they actually do get old in age, the Anunnaki. So let's have a look at some more Greece pictures. Tall, small beards, big beards. And that's a huge difference between the size of these people and these. Huge. So a couple of foot at least, I would say. And one more there showing some people and a fully fledged sized human. So, is it metaphoric when I say these were large? No. And that's because we have actually found the skeletons. And unfortunately, people give them to the Smithsonian. If you want to know more about that before you start trying to troll me, go back, watch my videos, or do some research on the Smithsonian and giant skeletons, and then you'll come back and agree, yes, we did find, and we have found, giant skeletons of 8 to 12 foot tall, as well as possibly larger, but we certainly have with the 8 to 12 foot tall. I'm going to give you my view on what the ancient giants were. Not the Anunnaki that were 8 to 12 foot tall, but the huge giants, 30, 40, 50 plus foot high. Now this image here is a Photoshop image because there was a competition to see who can design the best looking giant skeleton, and there's loads of photographs. Now they deliberately do this because they did the same thing with the crop circles, where the British intelligence, I'm not going to say their name, paid people, two particular guys back in the late 70s, early 80s, to go around and tell everyone that they're the ones that created the crop circles all over the world, when we know they didn't do them all over the world. They did do some, so of course then everyone stops looking for giants, because now if anyone else finds a giant and takes a picture of it, they'll say it's that Photoshop competition version, you see. So it's a great way of debunking things. So anyway, going back to my theory on the giants. Now, we've got a person here who's 8'11", at his tallest, Robert Wadlow. And as you can see, he had a thing called gigantism. Now, there also was a thing in the past, Egyptian times, as dwarfism, and we obviously have that now. So there's gigantism and dwarfism. Now, Robert Wadlow wasn't an Anunnaki, but he did have gigantism. But the Anunnaki didn't have gigantism compared to the little humans, because that's the size they were. Now, when they bred with humans, they had offspring. Now, depending on who they were, it was either a demigod or a Nephilim, or just an offspring. Now, technically, why weren't the demigods, just because there was an offspring of Enki or Enlil, what made them a demigod compared to an offspring of another Anunnaki and a human that gave us the Nephilim? So really what it boils down to is, in my opinion, the ones that ended up being ultra tall and, cannibalism and etc., had gigantism. Now, obviously, bearing in mind these are 8 to 12 foot in the first place, so having a child with a human and then having gigantism would give you massive thingies. And we have had giant skeletons. Watch my previous videos to find out where they were hidden and destroyed. But so that's what I think, and that's why we have gigantism to this day. We don't have elephant tusks growing out of us because we never had that. So in other words, our DNA has what we had in the past. And of course, if we had gigantism from 8 to 12 foot Anunnakis, that would make sense that gigantism would be prevalent still to this day. 750 videos. Thank you so much to everyone that supported me thus far. There'll be so many more videos coming on TikTok, obviously on my website as well, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Just in case you're interested in more stuff, I've got some on my Patreon page. I'll just go through some of those ones. What happened to Ra / Murdoch? So these are longer videos that's on my Patreon page, just in case you want to carry on the journey with me. Antarctica extra land or flat earth I talk about, and can you really channel an alien? And as you see, so there's some good stuff that I don't normally talk about elsewhere, and even my thoughts on how they cut the blocks, and that's not using chisels. Star Child, which we know is pretty cool, and then I go through different whistleblowers and stuff. So there's so much more new stuffs that you've not seen.
Everything is connected. In a world you thought you knew, one book will change the way you look at life forever. 30 years of research explains how Earth was smashed into. Discover the real name of the alien race we call the Anunnaki. Learn why everything started in ancient Mesopotamia, now modern Iraq. Examine the proof between humans, Anunnaki, and Egyptian rulers. You will find out that there were real giants living with humans. The pyramids were not tombs. They were technical devices built by aliens and man. Do you believe the dinosaurs all died out millions of years ago? Think again. Who really is on the dark side of our moon? Understand who really controls Earth. Crop circles are not just created by man. Look inside the book and discover the mysterious forces at work. is not a myth. They are real and connected to aliens. Everything you need to know, and so much more at your fingertips. Available from Amazon, Kindle, and OurUntoldHistory.com.